Welcome back, learners. We are discussing here toxic chemicals in the air. As I told you, air contains the main sustainable or important element which is called oxygen, and on this planet all living organisms breathe in that element, or we call oxygen, and this oxygen help us to grow, help us to reproduce, and also help us to change our food into energy, which is very important for our life cycle. And the air which we are, or the oxygen which we are inhaling, is contain lot of toxic chemicals, and these toxic chemicals which release into the air is due to some volcanic eruptions, or we can say that these are the natural activities, some man-made activities. In man-made activities, transportation, construction and demolition, burning of garbages in open, burning of agricultural waste, solid waste management, rice production, grazing, these some indoor air pollutions. So these are the main cause of which release the toxic chemicals in air. We will discuss here another toxic chemicals which released due to the man-made activities, that is nitrous oxide, fluorinated gas, and along with that, what is the cause of hole in ozone layer, what is petrochemical emission, and acid rain. What is acid rain? Learners, nitrous oxide, it is the dangerous contributor to the climate change, most dangerous gas, and it makes up 7 to 10% of green gas emission, and it is the responsible for the global warming also because of its potency and relatively long life of this nitrous oxide. It is dangerous contributor to the climate change, and 1 pound of nitrous oxide warm the atmosphere about 300 times the amount 1 pound of carbon dioxide does over 100 years times scales. So you can understand how nitrous oxide, which is present into the air, which is present in the atmosphere which we inhale, is dangerous. Learners, nitrous oxide is also called laughing gas, and it is biggest threat to ozone layer. Why it is called laughing gas? Because when we inhale this nitrous oxide, we interact with brain's neurotransmitter and we feel relaxed and happy. And this gas, which is nitrous oxide, is a most used sedative gas by dentists and surgeons, which used open surgeries, because when we inhale this, as I told you, the patient feel relaxed. So it is a biggest threat to ozone layer depletion due to large scale of farming with synthetic fertilizers and cattle ranching. 30% nitrous oxide emissions increase over 4 decades. So grazing, using of chemical fertilizers, these cattle ranching, these are the main cause of increasing of this chemical nitrous oxide into the atmosphere. Grazing livestock create nitrogen oxide emission because of the urine and dungs. So it acts as inhibits, and it inhibits the nitrogen fixation, and in spite of nitrogen fixation, it converts into nitrogen oxide. So grazing of livestock also create nitrogen oxide emission into the atmospheres. Annual 2014 agricultural N2O emissions and direct N2O emissions from excrete deposited by grazing livestock. So, this is the data of Canada where we can see the agricultural waste, grazing and emission of nitrogen oxide emission into the atmosphere. Another very toxic chemical which released into air or which released into the atmosphere, that is fluorinated gases. These are hydrofluorocarbon, we also call HFCs, perfluorocarbon, PFCs, sulfur hexachloride, SFCs, generated through refrigerators, air conditioning and solvent which used in manufacturing of different products, and it makes 2% of total greenhouse gases, and the emissions are caused by gas leakage during the manufacturing processes as well as throughout the product's life. So, the F gases, that is the fluorinated gases, are powerful greenhouse gases with a global warming effect up to 25,000 times greater than carbon dioxide. So, you can understand how these hydrofluorocarbon or fluorinated gases affects our health, affects our ecosystem or environment. 1st January 2019, Kigali amendment added HFCs list controlled substances under the Montreal Protocol. So, it is the protocol where the developed and developing countries agreed that the reduction and production of these fluorinated gases, and by this Montreal Protocol it could save around 80 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalents until 2050, and it is a significant contribution to fighting the climate change. So, these fluorinated gases are major contribution to the global warming and climate change. So, main cause of that air pollution we can see in our cities, in metro cities, is these fluorinated gases and the toxic chemicals released due to the fossil fuels consumptions or burning of fossil fuels. Refineries, industries also release lots of toxic chemicals into the air. Carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, fluorinated gases, these are released by some other man-made or industrial activities. Hydrofluorocarbons, it is refrigerants in refrigeration, air conditioning and heat pumps equipments, blowing agents for foams, fire extinguishers and aerosols. So, these are the structure of, you can see on your screen, structure of hydrofluorocarbons which contain hydrogen, fluorine and carbon. That is why it is called HFCs. These are the greenhouse gases. Perfluorocarbon, PFCs. These are the structure of, on your screen you can see, there are some toxic perfluorocarbons which release into the atmosphere, into the air due to use of electronic sectors, cosmetics and pharmaceutical industries. Another harmful toxic chemical which is released into the air due to man-made activities is sulfur hexafluoride. This is SF6. So, on your screen you can see structure of sulfur hexafluoride. So, it is a insulating gas used in high voltage switchgear and also it is used in production of magnesium and aluminum. Learners, sulfur is a main cause of increasing the temperature, because sulfur increase the temperature. Another greenhouse gases is ozone. So ozone, when in the atmosphere, the concentration of ozone is exceeds, it can be harmful. It comes into the category of greenhouse gas emission. So it is increased due to the human activities in the form of pollution and smoke. But ozone, as I told you, is a useful also, because it blocks the harmful UV rays from the sun, but it is a naturally occurring ozone gas. Learners, holes in ozone layer. Which gases are responsible for the holes in ozone layers? As I told you, chlorofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, because the ozone has thinned to the point that it can't prevent UV rays from reaching the earth. So the chlorofluorocarbon mix with atmospheric gases which are having lot of toxic chemicals and reach the stratosphere, decomposed by UV rays and to produce chlorine free radicals. So this is the structure. In reaction you can see how ozone is formed. Now during the reaction, the chlorine free radicals react with ozone to form oxygen and ClO free radicals, which react with atmospheric oxygen, and after the reaction more chlorine free radicals produce. So the continuation breakdown of ozone present into the stratosphere and it damage the ozone layer, and this is the reaction which shows the ozone depletion by CFCs. As you can see on your screen, chlorofluorocarbons when react with UV rays, it form the chlorine free radicals. That chlorine free radicals react with ozone and it is break down into the ClO and oxygen. That ClO react with ozone, atmospheric ozone, and it again produce chlorine free radicals and oxygen. So the reaction involved ozone layer depletion. Now we can say air pollution is a mixture of gases, which is main carbon monoxide, SO2, sulfur dioxide, H2S, are continually released into the atmosphere through natural activities. As I told you, volcanic activities, vegetation, decay and forest fire, combustion of fossil fuels and other natural activities. So the natural pollutants and man-made pollutants, especially gases, mist and aerosols, make pollute air. So this is called air pollutions. Learners, air pollution present in the atmosphere in concentrations that disturb the dynamic equilibrium in atmosphere and affect the man and his environment. Man-made pollutants resulting from chemical and biological processes. So in summers and winters, in extreme heat and in winters, we can easily find out the pollution in our city also, and it is because of the releasing of toxic chemicals into the air. Primary pollutants, because there are two pollutants which are released into the atmosphere, one is primary pollutant and another is secondary pollutants. So the primary pollutants contribute more than 90% of global in pollution, which is carbon monoxide, it is primary pollutant, nitrogen oxide, NOx, hydrocarbons, sulfur oxides, SO2 and particulates matter. That particulate matters which we are represented, we can also represent in PM. These are the primary pollutant and contribute more than 90% of pollution globally. So it formed and emitted directly from the particular sources. So these the primary pollutants directly emitted into the atmosphere. These pollutants are the most dangerous among primary pollutants. So these are, as I told you, released due to the human activities and some natural activities. Primary pollutants convert into secondary pollutants, and the acid rain is the cause of secondary pollutants. Learners, nitrogen dioxide produced during the combustion of gasoline in vehicles, because during the combustion of vehicle we used gasoline or petrol or diesel, right? This is called fossil fuels. So nitrogen dioxide, which is a toxic gas, is released during the combustion of in the gasoline in vehicles engines and coal in power plant. Because of regulations and many latest technologies, the improvement and lot of economic changes, due to lot of economic changes, the air pollution has decreased in recent years. So nitrogen oxide pollutions averaged yearly from 2005 to 2011 has decreased across the United States. It is source data given by EPA. Nitrogen oxide emissions by smelting industry in Canada. So you can see in the figure, in Canada the smelting industries released most nitrogen oxide into the atmosphere. I would like to explain you, this is the source given by KSPCB's Bangalore. The major pollutant in Bangalore, if you find out that the major pollutant in that city, even in our Delhi also, is the transport, is the vehicles. So the private vehicles are the major contributors, and also these are the major cause of concern in Delhi's air pollutions. Learners, this is the satellite image of India, and in the satellite image in India we can see here nitrogen dioxide emission is peak in summer, and is because it is caused by biogenic or soil nitrogen dioxide emissions. So but if you compare these two figures, 2019 and 2020, there is a massive improvement in air quality. Nitrogen dioxide emissions drops sharply because of the latest technologies, and because the government applied a lot of principles. The COVID-19 pandemic resultant change emissions regions all over India. So in the satellite image we can say a clear impact of lockdown was observed for AODs, PM, aerosol optical depth. AOD is a aerosol, that is the minute particles, aerosols optical depth, PM particulate matters, NO2, CO and SO2. So we can clearly see the impact of COVID-19 on our air also. We breathe slightly or little bit fresh air during that time. Another very important toxic chemical, that is nitrogen oxide. Learners, it is also family of poisons. It composites atmospheric gases, nitric oxide, that is NO, nitrogen dioxide, NO2, primary pollutants, and it is released during the combustion of fuels. So the most of these toxic chemicals released during the use of gasoline, use of that fossil fuels. Nitrogen oxide produced naturally by lightning. Learners, it is very important fact. Lightning also produce nitrogen oxide by microbial processes in the soil. Road transport makes the largest contribution in the releasing of nitrogen oxide into the air. So this is the reaction. When this nitrogen react with atmospheric oxygen, it convert into NO, nitrogen oxide. This NO is colorless gas, odorless gas, but when this NO react with atmospheric oxygen, it is convert into nitrogen dioxide. But this NO2 has reddish brown color, pungent and suffocating gas. So when nitrogen and oxygen in the combustion are combined at high temperature, it produce nitrogen oxide. Learners, it is very important. 3 types of nitrogen oxide produce. One is nitrogen oxide. During the combustion process, I am talking about the combustion process, burning of burning of fossil fuels. So 3 types of nitrogen oxide produced. One is nitrogen oxide, other is prompt nitrogen oxide, and fuel nitrogen oxide, and thermal nitrogen oxides. Thermal nitrogen oxide only requires nitrogen into the air and it combined with oxygen and OH radicals which are abundant in the flame. Similarly, combustion in air, high temperature dependent, and thermal nitrogen oxide formation is relatively very low because during the combustion process, during the combustion of fossil fuels, equilibrium concentration never reached in combustion devices. And prompt NOx, prompt nitrogen oxide, it is in the atmospheric nitrogen and combustion radicals, it gives prompt NOx and it is not temperature dependent. So it is the reaction how the prompt nitrogen oxide formed during the combustion reactions. Next is fuel NOx. It is a fuel NOx, it is also released during the combustion of fossil fuels. When nitrogen is chemically bonded to the fuel gases, natural gases formed when the fuel is burned at high temperature, it acts as a strong oxidizing agent and play a major role in atmospheric reaction with volatile compounds that produced smoke on that summer days, because we have seen even in Delhi we can see smoke. So this is called petrochemical smoke, and this is the main reason fuel NOx is which is released during the combustion process is the main cause of petrochemical smokes. So the concentration of nitrogen dioxide is abundant in air, and India's capital territory Delhi was 45 micrograms per cubic meter in 2019, sudden dip in NO2 levels compared to the last several years. This is the source you can see here, and this is the NO releasing of this data shows the releasing of nitrogen oxides. So the Indian nitrogen oxide emissions grew at 52% from 1991 to 2001 and 69% from 2001 to 2011. Learners, what is the cause? It's a slightly drop in the emission of nitrogen oxide, but the concentration of nitrogen increasing into the atmosphere because we are using lot of synthetic fertilizers. Because in fertilizers nitrogen is one of the main chemical or element which is used in the agriculture industry, used by the farmers. Along the food chain, it means about 80% of nitrogen is wasted. So on your screen you can see nitrogen oxide emissions breakup. So we can see here the agricultural industries, because of the using of fertilizers in agriculture industries, it contributes 70% of N2O emission into the atmosphere. Other than there are some other figures you can see on your screen. Now acid rain. As the toxic chemicals increase into the air due to industrial revolutions, the emission of nitrogen oxide and sulfur dioxide, which is released due to the from the coal factories or from the power plants and from the automobiles, we can see the acid rains in certain areas of big cities. Now, what the chemical reaction takes place which cause the acid rain formation? Acid rain is caused by emission of sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide react with water molecules in the atmosphere and it convert into acid. So, in the reaction you can see that is the sulfur dioxide which is released from the vehicles or many man-made activities. This sulfur dioxide react with water, it convert into H2SO3. This again it react with oxygen, atmospheric oxygen, it react to form SO3, and that SO3 react with water molecule into the atmosphere and it convert into the H2SO4 sulfuric acid, and this is the main cause of acid rain. Similarly, emissions of chemicals leading to the acidification. So, this is the reaction how the nitrogen convert into that is nitric acid HNO3. So, these are the two important reactions which are the cause of acid rain. This is another important reaction. Wet deposition of acid occurs any form of precipitation in the form of rain or in the form of snow. One important live example we can see Taj Mahal. So, Taj Mahal is corroding now. Wow, what is the reason? So, there is a two figure. Earlier the Taj Mahal was white because it is made up of a white marble, but you can see in the another structure Taj Mahal marble is changes because of the corrosion. It's corroded. Why it is corroded? Because of the emission of Mathura oil refinery, which is lies just 40 km away from the Taj, and it emits 25 to 30 tons of SO2 daily. So, this SO2 corrodes the building of Taj, which is made up of calcium carbonate. So, the calcium carbonate is a stone, and due to the acid rain or the concentration of increasing of the concentration of sulfur dioxide or and nitrogen oxide, it is changing into HNO3 and H2SO4. Learners, this is the reaction how the Taj Mahal marble is corroded, right? These are the two reactions. So, it is a slow erosion and the corrosion of marble. So, these are the two reactions why the color of marble of Taj Mahal is changing. So, here this acid H2SO4 and HNO3 it corroded the marble which is calcium carbonate. Now, petrochemical smoke. Petrochemical smoke is formed when UV rays from the sunlight react with pollutants. We can see brown hazy sky with lower visibility, most common in summer and in winter also, and its reaction occurs at high temperature. Nitrous oxides present in the air, which is very toxic chemical, react with sunlight and it produce oxygen atom which form ozone with molecular oxygen. So, the petrochemical smoke is a mixture of ground level ozone, nitrogen oxide, formaldehydes, peroxyacyl nitrates, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and which is the main cause of damage to human health and pollute our environment or also damaging our ecosystem. So, this is the you can see our India Gate during the summer or winter season due to petrochemical smoke. Another important cause of concern is the air pollution. This air pollution is threatening birds' health and it affects the avian respiratory system because of the toxic effects of the chemicals on the birds, including elevated stress level and immunosuppression behavioral changes. So, there is need to look at effect of different types of air pollution on different species all over the world. We have lack of understanding of the levels of pollution birds exposed. So it is the air pollution, birds are also exposed. Another important is fly ash. Finally, fly ash is a finely divided residue resulting from the combustion of high ash fossil fuels and pulverized coal. Due to small size and light, it has potential to get airborne and pollute the environment. Fly ash emission from a variety of coal combustion units show a wide range of combustion: silicon dioxide, alumina and calcium oxides. The recycling of fly ash has become an increasing concern in the recent years due to increasing landfills cost and current interest in sustainable development. NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation Limited, has invited expressions of interest for sale of fly ash in its endeavors to achieve 100% utilization of this fly ash. It is toxic air pollutant, triggers heart disease, cancer, respiratory disease, and it causes high levels of heavy metals in the gradual water. Coal-based thermal power plants manufacturing fly ash bricks utilized in plants as well as township construction activities. So learners, an average 60 million fly ash bricks are being manufactured annually by NTPC own fly ash units. So we had discussed about the toxic chemicals in the air. We can prevent the air pollution, but it is a global cause and it will take a global knowledge, but still we are far there yet. We are far behind yet, and learners, the climate change is a lot of criteria. Nowadays we can see the climate change because of wastage of food, because of deforestation, because of demolition and constructions, different types of man-made activities. So we can say because of the human greed, we are only responsible for the pollution or for the air which we are breathing in. Thank you.